Bienvenidos al Medical Spanish Podcast. Soy la doctora Molly Merton. Through this podcast, I provide interactive audio lessons that teach practical Spanish for healthcare and elsewhere. Bienvenidos. Soy la doctora Molly Merton. It's been a while. My last free podcast was in March and my last premium podcast in April. And I am so happy to be back. During my time away from podcasting, I visited my niece in Indonesia. I worked in the hospital, and then I worked behind the scenes on my website, docmolly.com. And today, I'm happy to be back podcasting and doing the fun stuff. So, since it's been a while since my last podcast, I would like to take this opportunity to reintroduce myself and the podcast. My name is Molly Merton. I am an internal medicine doctor. As many of you know, I work as a hospitalist in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this podcast is a hobby or passion of mine that I do on my days off. I started the Medical Spanish podcast prior to 2010. I actually can't remember the exact year. It was either somewhere between 2007 and 2009. So why did I start podcasting? Well, first, I love to learn and teach. And I'm passionate about learning medicine and the Spanish language. Ever since I spent a semester of college in Bolivia, where I studied in a small clinic on the outskirts of Cochabamba, I've had a passion for learning the Spanish language, learning about Latin America, and being able to communicate with people from Latin America. So I started this podcast to combine all those passions: medicine, Spanish, Latin America, and learning and teaching. And I found the resources for medical Spanish were lacking. There are a lot of courses out there, but most of them just teach the basics and don't delve deep into the patient-provider interactions and cover more advanced Spanish. Also, as a practicing doctor, I wanted to explore genuine clinical interactions, like the interactions I experience with my patients in the hospital. That's why in the Medical Spanish podcast, we explore things like discussing code status with the son of an elderly patient who suffers from dementia, and why we just did a clinical dialogue on a woman who presents to the emergency room with atrial fibrillation, something that I experience probably at least once or twice a week in hospital practice. And if you listen to my podcast, you know that I often collaborate with Spanish-speaking teachers, and you'll hear these teachers in a lot of the podcasts. And for those lessons that I record and write independently, I put a lot of time into researching, and I take lessons from native Spanish-speaking teachers to make sure that everything I'm presenting in the lessons is authentic and accurate as possible. For example, to prepare for the lesson you'll hear today on Spanish for Eye Care, I took lessons from a woman named Elena who teaches Spanish through italki.com. And I'll leave you a link to her profile if you're interested in taking classes, because she's great. She's professional, prepared, and she specializes in medical Spanish. Finally, there's one more reason why I started podcasting. I wanted to practice Spanish on the go, and I was looking for podcasts that were more interactive, where I didn't have to refer to a PDF or something in order to learn the material that was covered. I didn't want to just listen to Spanish. I wanted to learn Spanish while listening. And I also wanted to practice speaking. I wanted the podcaster to ask me questions and ask me to produce the Spanish that they had just taught. So that's my intent when I create each audio lesson or episode. What you hear in today's episode contains all you need to know, and you will be asked to fill in the blanks as we go. Therefore, if you're participating, you're bound to learn something from today's lesson. And if you miss something, no worries. I provide the transcript for the Spanish in each lesson in the show notes. So, today's lesson is from a new medical Spanish series called Spanish for Eye Care. This series of audio lessons covers an eye history, an eye exam, and common explanations and recommendations for basic eye care. And I would like to give a special thanks to Christine Shimaluski, an RN and optometrist, who provides basic eye care to those in need in Guatemala through her organization, Petén Health. Christine requested this series of lessons for volunteers working in Latin America, and she provided me with lists of phrases commonly used when giving basic eye care. Now, most of my medical Spanish lessons are for the more advanced learner. However, today's lesson is a more basic medical Spanish lesson. It is at the beginner to intermediate level, as is the entire Spanish for Eye Care series that is available under the basic medical subscription at docmolly.com. In today's lesson, we will first practice vocabulary related to direction. This vocabulary will be used to tell the patient to look in different directions. And then we will practice making commands out of verbs commonly used during an eye care exam. Finally, we will put this vocabulary to work as we practice interpreting common phrases from an eye exam in Spanish. ¿Listos? Empecemos. I will say each word in English, followed by a pause for you to repeat the word in Spanish. Front. Frente, el frente. To the front or forward. Al frente. Up. Arriba. Down. Abajo. To the right. A la derecha. To the left. A la izquierda. Now let's practice making some verbs into commands. First, I will say the verb and its meaning. Then I will say tú, followed by the command in English. And then you'll interpret the tú command in Spanish. Then I'll say the negative command in English, and you'll interpret the negative command. Then I'll say usted, and we'll do the same thing, interpreting the commands using the usted conjugation. Okay, let's try some. Ver, to see. Tú, see. Ve, don't see. No veas. Usted, see. Vea, don't see. No vea. Now that you've heard the pattern, let's try those commands again. Ver, to see. Tú, see. Ve, don't see. No veas. Usted, see. Vea, don't see. No vea. Mirar, to look. Tú, look. Mira, don't look. No mires. Usted, look. Mire, don't look. No mire. Seguir, to follow. Tú, follow. Sigue, don't follow. No sigas. Usted, follow. Siga, don't follow. No siga. Now let's practice part of an eye exam in Spanish, addressing the patient as usted. Now we're going to ask the patient to look in different directions. Look forward. Mire al frente. Look up. Mire hacia arriba. Look down. Mire hacia abajo. Look to the right. Mire a la derecha. Look to the left. Mire a la izquierda. Look here. Mire aquí. Look there. Mire allí when speaking of something in close proximity. Mire allí when speaking of something a little farther away. And mire allá when speaking of something in the distance. Now let's practice some more advanced commands. Interpret, please look at my finger. Por favor, mire mi dedo. Interpret, follow my finger with your eyes. Siga mi dedo con los ojos. Now interpret, follow my finger with your eyes without moving your head. Siga mi dedo con los ojos sin mover la cabeza. So we use the infinitive mover when we want to say without moving the head. Sin mover la cabeza. Try that one again. Follow my finger with your eyes without moving your head. Siga mi dedo con los ojos sin mover la cabeza. So in this example, I use the possessive adjective mi before dedo to be clear that I'm speaking of my finger. But I chose to use the definite article before los ojos y la cabeza because in Spanish, it is common to use a definite article before a part of the body when it is clear from the context to whom you are referring. So interpret one last time. Follow my finger with your eyes without moving your head. Siga mi dedo con los ojos sin mover la cabeza. And that wraps up today's lesson. I have more in store for the summer. Based on listeners' requests, we're going to do a lesson on giving directions in the hospital that will be included under my grammar subscription. And we're going to revisit my interview with a comadrona or midwife in Guatemala. Javier from San Pedro Spanish School is going to help me put together that lesson, and you'll be hearing that soon. Finally, if you sign up for this month's premium lesson at docmolly.com, you can listen to the entire iExam in Spanish as well as a Spanish grammar lesson covering the subjunctive. So I hope to see you soon. Hasta la próxima! This is a production of docmolly.com, where you will find interactive audio lessons that teach Spanish for healthcare and elsewhere.